My daughter collapsed after opening my sister's birthday gift. My mom laughed. I sent them both to prison. Hey, Reddit. I've helped my sister and mom through every rough patch, paid bills, covered rent, bailed them out more times than I can count. But my sister? Still bitter. She showed up to my daughter's birthday with a gift that sent my kid to the hospital. And my mom? She laughed. I made sure they both paid for it. I'm 38 male, a senior structural engineer at a top firm in Chicago, and my wife Megan, 35 female, is a director at a pharmaceutical company. We've got a solid 3-bedroom condo downtown. Nothing crazy luxurious, but definitely the result of years of grinding. I didn't just fall into engineering. Growing up in a small town outside Detroit, I watched our neighborhood deteriorate after the automotive plant shut down. My dad worked there for 22 years, before being laid off with a pathetic severance package. He spent the next decade bouncing between retail jobs while my mom cleaned houses. Every day I watched him age a little more, beaten down by a system that treated him like he was disposable. I figured out early that I needed a skill no one could take away from me. In high school, I'd stay late in the computer lab teaching myself AutoCAD while other kids were out partying. I was good at math and liked seeing how things fit together. My guidance counselor actually laughed when I said I wanted to be an engineer. College costs money, he told me. I still remember his condescending smile. My younger sister Rachel, 36 female, has had this weird competitive thing with me since we were kids. She's divorced, no kids, and pretty damn bitter about both. Our daughter Olivia, 14 female, is smart as hell, into art and music, and picks up on family drama like a goddamn radar. The favoritism in our family was always obvious, though. Mom would buy Rachel new clothes while I got hand-me-downs. Rachel got a car for her 16th birthday. I got a used bike. When I graduated college, on scholarships I busted my ass for, Mom showed up late and left early. For Rachel's graduation? Rented a whole restaurant for the party. I built everything I have from nothing. Worked construction jobs through college, lived in a shit apartment with 3 roommates, and saved every penny. Got my engineering degree, networked my ass off, and climbed the ladder one project at a time. Now I'm a partner at my firm, but I never forgot where I came from. My first job out of college paid $42,000 with brutal hours. I was working on highway infrastructure projects, often staying on site till midnight troubleshooting foundation issues. The senior engineers would throw me the most tedious calculations, expecting me to mess up so they could prove the scholarship kid didn't belong. I'd double and triple check everything, then come back with solutions they couldn't argue with. When the 2008 recession hit, I was one of 3 engineers from a team of 12 who didn't get laid off. Not because I had connections, but because I'd become indispensable. I took on extra work without complaint, learned specialized software no one else wanted to touch, and built relationships with clients who specifically requested me for their projects. Even when I made it, I kept helping them. When Rachel's divorce left her broke 4 years ago, I paid her rent for 6 months. When Mom couldn't afford her condo fees last year, I covered them. When Rachel's car died, I bought her a new one. Did I ever get a genuine thank you? Nope. Just more entitled bullshit and, you think you're so much better than everyone. I remember the day Rachel called about her car. It was a Tuesday. I was in the middle of a crucial meeting about a skyscraper project with a major structural challenge. I stepped out to take her call because she was having an emergency. The emergency? Her 10-year-old Civic had finally died. She needed $27,000 for a brand new Mazda CX-5. Not a used car, not something practical. She deserved a new SUV. I transferred the money that afternoon. Her response? Well, I guess this makes us even for all those times Mom favored you as a kid. There was never any actual favoritism toward me. In fact, it was the complete opposite. Rachel especially resents Megan. She can't stand that my wife has everything she doesn't: a happy marriage, a great kid, a killer career, and financial stability. She's made snide comments about it for years. Last Thanksgiving, she accidentally spilled wine on Megan's new dress, then said, "Oh, sorry, I forgot some of us can't just buy whatever we want." At Olivia's school play, she cornered Megan and spent 20 minutes explaining how corporate careers damage mother-child bonds. When we remodeled our condo, she walked in and said, "Must be nice playing house while the rest of us struggle to survive." Then there was the family reunion last summer. Megan spent weeks coordinating everything, reserving the venue, arranging catering. Rachel showed up 3 hours late, complained about everything, then pulled me aside to say, "Your wife seems stressed. I guess not everyone is cut out for managing both a career and family events. Some women just can't handle the pressure." The worst part was seeing Megan's face when she overheard. She'd been putting up with this crap for years, never complaining. Rachel's passive-aggressive tactics weren't just about material things. When Megan got promoted to director last year, Rachel sent her a congratulations email, CCing the entire family, with links to studies about how children of career-focused mothers have higher rates of depression. When Olivia won a regional art competition, Rachel posted on Facebook about how some kids have all the advantages and how nepotism starts young these days. I always brushed it off as bitterness. She's going through a rough patch, I'd tell Megan. She doesn't mean it. Megan, being way more patient than I deserve, would just smile and let it go. Megan has always been the level-headed one. We met during my second year at the engineering firm when her pharmaceutical company contracted us to design their new research facility. While other executives sent emails with vague requirements, Megan would show up in person with detailed specifications and practical solutions. She respected my expertise while I respected hers. No games, no drama, just two professionals who recognized each other's value. Last week, Rachel was acting weird when we met up for coffee. She kept asking these oddly specific questions about our place, my job, finances, stuff she normally doesn't care about. She also asked about Olivia's birthday party, who was coming, what time, what gifts we'd bought. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just making conversation. The day before Olivia's birthday was hectic. We spent hours setting up our condo, hanging decorations, ordering food from Olivia's favorite places, and arranging the gifts. Olivia was excited but trying to play it cool like teenagers do. "Dad, did you really invite Aunt Rachel?" she asked while helping me move furniture. "Yeah, she's family, Olivia." Olivia gave me that look kids give when they understand more than they let on. She's always so mean to Mom. "She's got her own issues," I said, not wanting to trash talk my sister to my kid. "Just be polite and we'll get through it." Olivia nodded, but I could tell she wasn't thrilled. She's always been sensitive to family dynamics, especially how her aunt treats her mom. I remember the first time Olivia picked up on the tension. She was 9, and we were at my mother's house for Christmas. Rachel made some comment about Megan's parenting, and Olivia quietly slipped her hand into Megan's. Later that night, she asked me, "Why doesn't Aunt Rachel like us?" Kids see through the bullshit adults try to hide. That evening, my mom called to confirm she was coming. "I hear you're throwing quite the extravagant party," she said, that familiar judgmental tone creeping in. "It's not extravagant, Mom. It's just a normal birthday for a 14-year-old. "Well, not all of us can afford normal like you and Megan," she replied. I changed the subject, asking if she needed a ride. After hanging up, Megan noticed my expression. "Your mom again?" she asked. "Yeah, same old shit," I said. "She and Rachel are coming tomorrow." "Fair warning," Megan sighed. "I'll be on my best behavior if they will." "That's the spirit," I said, kissing her forehead. "How bad could it be?" "It's just one afternoon." The night before the party, I double-checked all our preparations while Megan finalized the cake order. Olivia was texting with friends, excited about tomorrow. Everything looked normal on the surface, but something felt off, like when a structure passes every inspection, but your gut says it's one load away from failing. I've learned to trust that instinct at work. I should have trusted it at home too. Olivia's birthday fell on a Saturday, which worked out perfectly for the party. I woke up early to pick up the cake, and by the time I got back, Megan had breakfast going and Olivia was helping set up the last decorations. "You excited for your big day, kiddo?" I asked, sliding the cake into the fridge. "Yeah," she smiled. "Thanks for doing all this, Dad." A few of Olivia's friends were coming at noon, and family was scheduled for 2 p.m. I was hoping we'd get the fun part of the day in before the family drama started. I spent the morning watching Olivia open our gifts. The new drawing tablet she'd been wanting for months, some art supplies, and tickets to a concert she was excited about. Seeing her genuine happiness made all the work worth it. This is what I'd been building toward all these years. Not just financial security, but being able to give my kid the kind of childhood I never had. The morning went smoothly. Olivia's friends arrived, a group of giggling teenage girls who immediately disappeared into Olivia's room with pizza and snacks. Around 1:30, they emerged to hang out in the living room, just as we were setting up for the family portion. At exactly 2 p.m., the doorbell rang. Mom walked in first, followed by Rachel. Mom was dressed like she was going to a fancy brunch, not a teenager's birthday party. Rachel looked like she'd put extra effort into her appearance too. Designer outfit, perfect makeup, hair done. She was clearly trying to one-up Megan, who was in comfortable jeans and a nice top. "Happy birthday to my favorite granddaughter," Mom announced, as if she had other grandchildren to compare Olivia to. She handed Olivia an envelope that probably contained a check for exactly $50, same as every year. Rachel's greeting was stiff. "Happy birthday, Olivia." She glanced around our condo with that familiar look of assessment and judgment. One of Olivia's friends whispered something, and the girls giggled. Rachel shot them an irritated look. Your place looks cozy, Rachel said to Megan, in that tone that suggested our 1,800 square foot Chicago condo was somehow inadequate. Still haven't redecorated the kitchen? Haven't needed to, Megan replied smoothly. It works perfectly for us. I noticed Rachel studying our living room, eyes lingering on the new furniture we'd bought last month. I could practically see her calculating the cost in her head. This was her usual MO, mentally inventorying our possessions, looking for evidence of our excessive lifestyle that she could complain about later. We moved to the living room where Olivia's friends were gathered around her. After some awkward small talk, it was time for cake and presents. We cut the cake, and then Olivia started opening gifts from her friends. Then Rachel stepped forward with a small, beautifully wrapped box. This is from me and Grandma, she said with a strange eagerness in her voice. We picked it out especially for you. As Olivia reached for it, some instinct made me ask, Where'd you get that, Rachel? She looked surprised at my question. From a boutique downtown? Why? I shrugged, not wanting to create tension in front of Olivia's friends. Olivia carefully untied the ribbon and opened the silver wrapping paper, revealing a small jewelry box. Oh, it's so pretty, she said, examining the box before opening it. Inside was a silver bracelet with small charms. It looked harmless enough. It's beautiful, Olivia exclaimed, holding it up. Thanks, Aunt Rachel and Grandma. She slipped it onto her wrist, and that's when everything went to hell. 1 second, Olivia was smiling, admiring the bracelet. Next, her expression completely changed. Her eyes went wide, pupils dilating rapidly. Her hands started shaking. Olivia! Megan called, voice rising with concern. Olivia didn't respond. The color drained from her face, her lips turning a scary shade of blue. Then her entire body went rigid, and a series of small, rapid pulses of light emitted from one of the bracelet's charms. Almost imperceptible, unless you were looking directly at it. Suddenly, Olivia's body began to convulse violently. Olivia! Megan screamed, rushing to her. Olivia collapsed to the floor, her body seizing uncontrollably. Megan tried to hold her, protect her head, while I fumbled for my phone to call 911. My daughter is having a seizure, I told the dispatcher, trying to stay calm. We need an ambulance now. While talking to the dispatcher, I was mentally cataloging Olivia's symptoms with the systematic approach I use for structural emergencies. Seizure duration, approximately 45 seconds and counting. Breathing, labored but present. Color, returning slightly but still pale. I knew from first aid training that timing the seizure was critical information for the medical team. Olivia's friends were screaming, backing away in terror. One of them tried to help Megan stabilize Olivia's head. But what I'll never forget, what still makes my blood boil, is what happened next. Is the show too much for everyone? I heard my mother say, with a freaking laugh in her voice. I looked up in disbelief and saw Mom covering her mouth with her hand, but her eyes were cold, almost gleaming. Next to her, Rachel said, Not such a perfect life now, is it? I couldn't process what I was hearing. My daughter was convulsing on the floor, possibly dying, and they were, what? Enjoying it? Megan was too focused on Olivia to hear them. Thank God. Olivia's seizure continued. Her breathing became shallow and irregular. I grabbed the bracelet from her wrist and examined it closely. There was something odd about the back of one of the charms, a small electronic component embedded in it that definitely wasn't normal jewelry hardware. My engineering background kicked in immediately. This wasn't just a charm, it was a device. The small circular component had the precision manufacturing quality I'd recognize anywhere, and the micro-LED was barely visible but unmistakable to someone who works with technical specifications daily. The paramedics arrived within minutes. They quickly assessed Olivia and loaded her onto a stretcher. We need to get her to the hospital immediately, one of them told us. Her condition isn't stable. As we were leaving with Olivia, Megan riding in the ambulance, and me following in my car, I looked back at Rachel and Mom. They were standing by the window, watching us. Their expressions weren't of concern or worry. They looked satisfied. That's when I knew this wasn't an accident. This was planned. Chicago Memorial was packed with Saturday afternoon emergencies. The doctors immediately took Olivia to a treatment room, while Megan and I sat in the hallway, holding hands and trying not to completely lose it. She'll be okay, I kept saying, not believing it myself. Megan looked at me, eyes red. That bracelet? There was something wrong with it, wasn't there? I think so, I said. There was some kind of electronic component embedded in one of the charms. I gave it to the doctors. One of Olivia's friends had come with us, and her parents arrived to pick her up. The other girls had been sent home from our condo. The birthday was officially over. While we waited, I started researching seizures on my phone, looking for anything that could explain what happened. Photosensitive epilepsy came up repeatedly, seizures triggered by specific light patterns. The pulsing from that charm suddenly made horrifying sense. Looking at medical websites, I learned that certain frequencies of flashing lights, between 5 to 30 flashes per second, can trigger seizures in susceptible individuals. That bracelet had been designed to hit exactly that frequency range. About an hour later, Rachel and Mom showed up. They seemed oddly calm for people whose niece-granddaughter had just been rushed to the hospital. "How is she?" Rachel asked, her concern obviously forced. "The doctors are examining her," I replied coldly. When Rachel tried to sit next to Megan, I stepped between them. "Keep your distance." "Excuse me?" Rachel acted surprised. "We're family. We're worried about her." "David, what's wrong with you?" Mom chimed in. "We're here because we care about Olivia." Megan stood up, rage in her eyes. "Really? Is that why you were laughing when my daughter collapsed on our floor?" "I wasn't laughing," Rachel protested. "I was in shock." The treatment room door opened, and a doctor emerged. His expression was serious as he approached us. "Your daughter is stable now. She had an epileptic seizure, but we've controlled it with medication. We're doing a CT scan and blood tests." "Epilepsy?" I asked. "She's never had any signs of that before." The doctor nodded. "That's why we're investigating what triggered it. We're also examining the bracelet you gave us." I noticed Rachel take a step back. Mom's eyes widened. "Examining it? Why?" Mom asked, her voice suddenly shaky. The doctor turned to her. "And you are?" "Her grandmother," Mom replied stiffly. "Mr. David mentioned the seizure occurred immediately after your daughter touched this bracelet. Our preliminary examination shows something unusual about it." The doctor then spoke quietly to me and Megan. "We've called in one of our biomedical engineers to look at the device more closely. The hospital's legal team has also been notified, as this may involve intentional harm." I wasn't surprised. In engineering, we have a saying, once is an accident, twice is coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. And the pattern here was becoming clearer by the minute. 2 hours later, the doctor returned with Olivia's test results. His expression had grown even more serious. "We've found abnormal brainwave patterns, typical of a photosensitive epileptic seizure, but no structural abnormalities in your daughter's brain," he explained. "Meaning?" I asked. "Something induced the seizure," he said carefully. Our electronics technician examined the bracelet. There's a microstrobe device embedded in one of the charms that emits rapid pulses of light at frequencies known to trigger seizures in photosensitive individuals. It activated when the bracelet was moved in a certain way. The reality of what he was saying hit us like a truck. "Are you saying someone intentionally tried to hurt our daughter?" Megan's voice shook. The doctor's face hardened. "This device couldn't have been created by accident. I've contacted the police. Investigators will be here shortly." As he left, his final words hung in the air. I looked at Rachel and Mom sitting across the waiting room. Rachel was on her phone, seemingly unconcerned. Mom was flipping through a magazine. These weren't the actions of people worried about a family member in crisis. These were the actions of people watching a plan unfold. The next few hours were a blur. Detectives arrived, taking statements and evidence. Rachel and Mom were questioned separately in different rooms of the hospital. Officer Dennison, a veteran cop who reminded me of my construction foreman from college, took my statement. "Walk me through exactly what happened," he said, notebook open. I gave him a detailed timeline, being precise about the sequence of events like I would in a structural failure analysis. The seizure began approximately 12 seconds after she put on the bracelet. I noticed light pulses coming from one of the charms. The seizure lasted around 3 minutes before the paramedics arrived. "And did you notice anything unusual about your sister's behavior before or during the incident?" he asked. "She seemed unusually interested in the party details when we spoke last week, and when Olivia collapsed, she didn't seem surprised or concerned. In fact, she made a comment about our perfect life not being so perfect anymore." The officer's expression remained neutral, but he wrote everything down meticulously. Olivia regained consciousness, confused and weak, but alive. I've never felt such relief mixed with such rage. The detective, a no-nonsense cop with 20 years on the force, met with us in a small hospital conference room. "Have they said anything?" Megan asked, her voice raw. "Your mother-in-law initially denied everything, claiming it was just a normal bracelet," the detective explained. "But the evidence is overwhelming. The technician confirmed the device was professionally made and deliberately installed." "And Rachel?" I asked. "She's still denying involvement, claiming she bought it from a boutique downtown. We're checking security footage and credit card records." Olivia was kept overnight for observation. Megan stayed with her while I went home to clean up the condo and deal with the aftermath of the ruined party. The whole time, I kept turning over what had happened, trying to make sense of it. The next morning, I returned to the hospital to find Megan sitting with Olivia, who was awake and looking much better. The doctors confirmed she would make a full recovery with no lasting damage. Later that afternoon, the detective called and asked us to come to the station. Rachel had finally broken down under questioning. Megan stayed with Olivia while I went downtown. I was led into an observation room where I could watch Rachel's interrogation through a one-way mirror. She looked terrible. Makeup smeared. Hair a mess. I just wanted to wipe that smug look off her face, Rachel was saying, her voice rising. Perfect Megan with her perfect life and her perfect daughter and her perfect thing husband. Do you know what it's like to have nothing while your brother has everything? To have him throw his charity in your face year after year? So you tried to hurt a 14-year-old girl? The interrogator asked. I didn't want to kill her, Rachel screamed, tears streaming down her face. I just wanted to break what I couldn't have. I wanted Megan to know what it feels like to have your life shattered. I wanted her to suffer for once. And the device in the bracelet? I found a guy online who makes electronics. I told him I needed something that could trigger a seizure. Paid him in cash. She laughed bitterly. It wasn't even that expensive. And your mother's involvement? Rachel hesitated. She knew. I told her what the bracelet would do. She thought it would be funny. Teach them a lesson about flaunting their perfect life. She said Olivia would be fine, just scared. I felt sick watching her confess. The pure hatred in her voice when she talked about Megan, about our family. It was like listening to a stranger. The detective entered the observation room. We'll be pressing charges for aggravated assault, reckless endangerment, and conspiracy. The DA might add more. Your mother will be charged as an accessory. Good, I said. I want them both to pay for this. I've been doing this job for 20 years, the detective said. Family cases are always the worst. I'm sorry you're going through this. I nodded, unable to find words. My sister had tried to break my family out of pure spite and jealousy, and my mother didn't even try to stop it. On the drive home, I called our family lawyer, Marcus, who'd helped us with estate planning last year. I need advice on restraining orders and a civil suit, I told him, explaining the situation. Jesus Christ, was his response. I'll clear my schedule. Come in tomorrow morning. Bring all the police reports and medical documentation you have. I thought about what Rachel had said, about wanting to break what she couldn't have. The jealousy had been festering for years, but I never imagined it would lead to this. People talk about blood being thicker than water, but in my experience, blood can sometimes be toxic. The Monday after the incident, Megan and I met with Marcus at his downtown office. He'd already reviewed the preliminary police reports I'd emailed him and had a clear strategy laid out. We're pursuing this on 3 fronts, he explained, laying out documents on his desk. Criminal charges, which the DA is handling. A civil lawsuit for medical expenses, emotional distress, and punitive damages, and restraining orders to keep both your sister and mother away from your family. I appreciated his methodical approach. It matched how I'd handle a complex engineering problem. Break it down into components. Address each systematically. What kind of sentence are we looking at for the criminal charges? Megan asked. Aggravated assault with intent to cause bodily harm carries a 2 to 10-year sentence in Illinois, Marcus explained. Add conspiracy, child endangerment, and the premeditated nature of the attack, we're likely looking at the higher end of that range for Rachel. And my mother? I asked. As an accessory, probably 1 to 3 years, but given her age and lack of prior record, she might get probation. But, he added, seeing my expression harden, the civil penalties will hit them both hard. He pulled out a damage assessment form. Medical expenses are just the beginning. We'll claim emotional distress, trauma requiring therapy, loss of quality of life, and punitive damages. Given the deliberate nature of the attack on a minor, we could be looking at a judgment in the high 6 figures. They don't have that kind of money, I said. Marcus nodded. Exactly, which means liens on any assets they own, garnishment of future wages, and essentially financial ruin. They'll be paying this off for the rest of their lives. There was a certain cold satisfaction in that. Rachel and Mom had tried to destroy what I'd built. Now they'd lose everything they had. The legal process moved surprisingly quickly. The evidence was overwhelming. The modified bracelet, Rachel's confession, the medical reports, and the electronics expert's testimony about the device's deliberate design. Rachel's lawyer pushed for a plea deal, hoping to reduce the charges. I refused to agree to anything less than the maximum. She tried to put my daughter in the hospital, I told the DA during our meeting. She admitted she wanted to break my family. I want her to face every possible consequence. The DA, a sharp woman in her 50s who'd seen it all, nodded. I have 3 kids of my own. If someone did this to one of them, I'd feel exactly the same way. Rachel's preliminary hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks after the incident. Megan and I sat in the courtroom, watching as she was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit. She looked nothing like the polished, smug person who had walked into our condo that Saturday. Her eyes were hollow, her hair limp. She didn't look at us once. Her lawyer attempted to argue for bail, claiming she wasn't a flight risk and had strong community ties. The prosecution countered with the severity of the charges and the calculated nature of the attack. Your Honor, the prosecutor said, the defendant purchased a device specifically designed to cause a seizure in a child. This wasn't a moment of passion or a mistake. This was a deliberate, planned attack on a 14-year-old girl. The judge denied bail. Rachel was led back out in handcuffs, and I felt nothing watching her go. My mother's hearing was the following day. Her lawyer tried to portray her as an unwitting participant who had no idea what the bracelet would do. The prosecution demolished this argument by playing the recording of Rachel's confession, where she clearly stated that our mother knew exactly what the bracelet was designed to do and thought it would be funny. My mother's eyes filled with tears as she was also denied bail. I watched her being led away and thought about all the times she'd chosen Rachel over me, all the years of favoritism and dismissal. Now she'd chosen Rachel one last time, and it had cost her everything. It's been 8 months since Olivia's birthday. She made a full physical recovery within days, but the psychological impact took longer to process. The doctors confirmed the seizure caused no permanent damage, and Olivia's been seeing a therapist to work through the trauma. I was proud of her strength, but furious that she had to develop that kind of resilience at 14. Kids shouldn't have to learn that family members can betray them so profoundly. The criminal trial was mercifully quick. Her lawyer had nothing. The confession, the bracelet, the expert testimony, she was cooked. Rachel was charged with multiple felonies. Her court-appointed lawyer tried to push for a plea deal, but I refused to accept anything less than the maximum. The DA had a solid case: the modified bracelet, the confession, the medical evidence. In the end, Rachel got 6 years for aggravated assault and reckless endangerment. Mom was charged as an accessory and got 3 years probation plus mandatory psychiatric evaluation due to her age. The judge's words to her still ring in my ears. As a mother and grandmother, your actions are particularly disturbing. You betrayed the most fundamental trust. The civil case hit hard. $750,000 against Rachel and $250,000 against my mother. Every penny went into Olivia's college fund. They'll be paying for this long after the memory fades, which for me, it never will. Neither of them had anywhere near those resources, which was exactly the point. I wanted consequences that would follow them for decades, just as the memory of watching my daughter collapse would follow me. The financial fallout was immediate. I cut them both off completely. No more support, no more bailouts, nothing. Mom's condo association foreclosed when she couldn't make the payments without my help. She had to sell most of her possessions and move into a subsidized senior apartment. Rachel's apartment was likewise repossessed, her belongings sold to pay legal fees. The court ordered that all Rachel's future earnings be garnished at 25% until the judgment was paid off. Given the felony conviction, her employment prospects were bleak. For someone who had always been obsessed with status and appearance, this financial ruin was its own form of justice. But the money wasn't enough. We weren't taking any chances. We also secured permanent restraining orders against both of them. They can't come within 500 feet of our home, Olivia's school, or our workplaces. They're barred from contacting us by phone, email, social media, or through third parties. Any violation means immediate jail time for Rachel after her release, or immediate incarceration for my mother. I had our locks changed, upgraded our security system, and made sure Olivia's school knew exactly who was and wasn't allowed to pick her up. I've never been paranoid, but when someone in your family tries to hurt your kid, you take every precaution. 2 months after the sentencing, Mom showed up at our building. The doorman called up, and I went down to meet her in the lobby. I didn't invite her upstairs. "David, please," she begged, looking older and smaller than I remembered. "I made a terrible mistake. I need your help." "With what?" I asked coldly. "I can't live on Social Security alone, and Rachel needs commissary money. The conditions in there are—" I cut her off. "Not my problem. Not anymore." "She's your sister," Mom said, her voice cracking. "I'm your mother. You should have thought about that before you helped her try to hurt my daughter. We never meant to—" "Yes, you did," I said, feeling nothing as tears rolled down her face. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You watched my daughter collapse and you laughed. David, we're done. Don't come here again." I turned to the doorman. "She's not welcome in this building. Ever." I walked away without looking back. In my pocket, my phone buzzed with a text from Megan. "Everything okay?" I texted back. "All good. Taking out the trash." That night, Megan and I sat on our balcony after Olivia went to bed. We talked about changing our phone numbers, maybe even moving to a different part of the city. Do you think we're being too harsh? Megan asked, though I could tell from her tone she didn't really think so. They tried to hurt our kid, I said simply. There's no coming back from that. Megan nodded. I just keep thinking about what Rachel said in her confession, about wanting to burn what she couldn't have. Some people can't stand seeing others happy, I said, especially if they think they deserve that happiness more. The weeks after the sentencing, I focused entirely on strengthening what really mattered, my relationship with Megan and Olivia. I delegated more at work to be home earlier. We started a Friday movie night tradition. Megan and I took turns helping Olivia with her art projects. We became even more deliberate about building the kind of family bond that Rachel had tried to destroy. The legal fallout continued for months. Rachel's public defender filed appeal after appeal, all denied. My mother attempted to contact us through distant relatives, former neighbors, even Megan's colleagues. Each time, we reinforced the boundaries, documented the violations, and moved on. I've thought a lot about family since then, about how we're conditioned to forgive family members for things we'd never tolerate from anyone else, about how we're supposed to maintain these relationships just because of shared DNA. Screw that. We rebuilt our lives without them, and it's been better than I expected. Olivia's doing great in school and with her friends. Megan got promoted at work. I landed a major new client. We took a long vacation to Europe this summer, something we'd always talked about but never prioritized. Sometimes I think about Rachel sitting in her cell, or Mom alone in her tiny apartment. I wonder if they ever truly regret what they did, or if they just regret getting caught. I wonder if they understand what they lost. But mostly, I don't think about them at all. A few colleagues questioned my decision to cut off my family completely. Blood is blood, one said during lunch. Eventually, you'll have to forgive them. Would you forgive someone who deliberately tried to put your kid in the hospital? I asked. He had no answer. That's the thing about family. People have this idealized notion that it's sacred, that blood ties should override everything else. But in reality, family should be held to a higher standard, not a lower one. The people who are supposed to love you the most should be the least likely to hurt you, not the most. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who supports you, who wants the best for you. It's about who would never ever hurt you just to make themselves feel better. Olivia doesn't wear bracelets anymore. Can't blame her. But she's got this necklace Megan and I bought her for her 15th birthday last month. Olivia wears it every day. That's family. The rest is just DNA.